Oi you, it's time for another episode of Dorothy and the Dealer. Let's tune into the conversation.
Oh my God, you show your age every time you answer questions like that, honestly.
Doesn't matter. I'm still caught in 1994.
You were like 300 when these two that we've got as guests were born.
I was 300?
Yeah.
Or I was 300 years ago?
300 years old.
Right.
We were both old. I feel old.
Yeah.
But we're very fortunate to have the gorgeous Amanda and the lovely Harry.
Hello.
Hi. Joining us today. How are you guys?
Very good, very good. How are you?
We're good.
That's good. Are you guys a bit nervous?
Yeah,
you don't.
a little for some
you
reason.
don't look
I'm
like
just
you're
stressed
nervous.
about the microphone because we're sharing the microphone.
There's a shared microphone situation going on because we've never had
Stressed
two
about being
guests
too
on at
far
once.
away.
Yeah. Don't be stressed, mate. You got this. You got this.
Lean
hands
in,
down.
Harry, lean in. It's okay. So before we get going and talking about why we're on this podcast, what I want to find out from the both of you is what's your favourite song at the moment or your favourite all-time song or, I don't know, whatever. Just a song that comes to mind. Talk to me.
The first song that comes to mind, I've been on replay for a couple of days now, but it's a song called Running by Beyonce, and it's featuring some other artist. I just don't know his name, but yeah.
Okay. Do you know? Can you sing us a line or two?
Oh gosh.
It's terrible.
You didn't know that was going to happen, did you?
It just says, if I lose myself, I will lose it all.
Right.
So it's really
You're resonating with the words.
Yes,
yes.
yes,
Okay,
the lyrics
cool,
really
cool.
hit the soul.
Cool. I'm going to have to listen to it. Harry, what's your go-to?
I don't really have like a favourite song or a go-to song, but a good all-time song that I like would be "A Lovely Day." I don't know who sings it though. It's an old song. It's probably older than me.
When I wake up in the morning, like,
Yeah.
well, it was about
Is it
1970.
Bill?
Sunlight hits my
Yeah.
eyes, then I look at you.
Yeah.
We've had that on
That's a
here
good
quite
song.
a few.
It's a good song.
And
It's a
the
feel-good
world's
song.
all right with me. That's it. Who was
Bill
it?
Withers. That's
There
who it
you
is.
go.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Then I look at you. Such a cracking track.
That was
I
a
mean, they
good
don't
song.
make music like they did back then. Do you know what I mean? Back
Yes.
then. Not that I would know because I wasn't around back then, but they don't make music like they did back then. So,
Very
you young
good.
whippersnappers,
Yes.
how is it to be here on Dorothy and the Dealer? Are you all right? Everything okay? You just came out of relationships and you?
Yep, very exciting. First time podcast.
First time
Woo.
podcast.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, we want to talk a little bit about, so we might do it one at a time or together, whatever. We would just want to talk a little bit about relationships and you in general, because we decided that it might be a good idea to talk to a couple of people after they've come out of the seminar just to see, I don't know, did it meet your expectations? What were you thinking? What got you there in the first place? Things like that. So why don't we just start with maybe Amanda, do you want to just tell us what got you, what caused you to get to the point where you wanted to do something and work on yourself in relationship, and why relationships and you?
Yep. So at the beginning of the year, I did Mastermind and Money. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
obviously that brought up relationships and you. But even prior to that, my sister had discussed about MG seminars. And yeah, it was at the beginning of the year, I finished a relationship. So once you get, going through breaking up, you just have a lot of questions, either about like your partner and your relationship together, but then as an individual as well. So I guess I was just in that space where, yeah, I just wanted some answers to be heard within myself and just see what kind of journey I was going to go into for the new year.
So what do you think happened at Mastermind and Money? What? Because I mean, it's people think it's a big leap, but in actual fact, once you get to Mastermind and Money, it kind of feels like going on.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
this makes sense. I need to do something. What do you think triggered that for you in Mastermind and Money?
You guys talked a lot about how your wealth equaled your self-wealth
Yeah.
as well, like how that was hand in hand, and that was just, I felt like deep down maybe I knew that, but I just actually never heard it in words, or maybe no one really like solidified that for me.
Yeah.
And I was at the time going through something at work as well. So I really just wanted some reassurance, and I kind of heard that and it just made so much sense. And yeah, it all worked out really well after that. So it was a domino effect.
Do you feel like, you had something going on at work, you'd separated from a partner at the beginning of the year. Did you get that sensation? As I know, I always know when I've got to be growing, because something pressurizes us to actually move. Do you know what I mean? Something goes, okay,
100%.
I've got something going on. I need to actually move.
Yeah.
So is that what you felt was happening?
Yeah, I just felt whatever I was doing up till then wasn't working for me.
Right.
Because I had to end a relationship and then things at work were becoming rocky.
Right.
So whatever I was doing up to then obviously wasn't working for myself, and I wasn't potentially being true to myself either.
I think a lot of people, I think this is just from my perspective, I've never done Mastermind of Money as a participant before, obviously. So, but I think what people recognise at that point, and a lot of what brings people to relationships and you in the first place, is the fact that they realise that there's something going on underneath all of the cycles that are happening in my life. Like there's a cycle with relationship, there's a cycle with money, there's a cycle with career, there's a cycle with this, that and the other thing. And it's like, what's actually causing those cycles? Is that what you reckon?
Yes.
Well, patterns, you know,
Yes,
these
patterns,
repetitive
yep.
patterns, these repetitive cycles. It's like you feel like you've dealt with that, but there it is again, you know.
Yes.
We feel like we've sorted this part out and there it is again.
Yeah, it's
so
like
is that
running
how
into the same wall.
keeps
over
running
and
into the
over.
same wall? Yeah. So how was it for you, Harry? What led you to, you know, just starting with relationships
Oh
and
my
you?
God, he's wrecking the place. Go easy.
Sorry.
Go easy, Harry.
So for me, it was a bit different. Like I hadn't done Mastermind of Money.
Yeah.
I hadn't done any personal development ever on myself. And the reason, I suppose, what got me here was there'd been a few instances over the last few years where I'd probably done some dumb shit, and then, you know, there was
Probably done some dumb
Well, you're
definitely.
27.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, there was a few instances which were taking a toll on my relationship, and it's a long-term relationship. We're engaged, you know, like we need to make. I need to make it work. Like I need to do everything I can to make it work. Anyway, so a few things happened, and then I realised that I probably need to do something. So I reached out to my brother George, who we all know, and George is the person who actually got me here. Because I just said to George, you know, you've done a lot of personal development work yourself. Tell me about that. What have you done? And he said, you know, you can do this, this, and this, or if you want to go really deep, you can do relationships and you. And I was like, okay. And then he sent me the video that you have. I think it's Bridge the Gap.
Yeah.
He sent me that. He said, watch this. If you're keen, let me know, and I'll call Mitch.
Right.
I'll tell Mitch to call you.
Right.
And that was it. And then I watched the video, and I was like, yep, let's do it.
So what was it about that then? Did you see the same sorts of things we were talking about with Amanda, like in terms of when you watched the video? Because the video is just like a sciencey kind of description around what we do. What was it about that made you go, yeah, I'm in?
I suppose I'd probably already decided I was in before
Yeah,
the video.
I got that
the
feeling.
reality.
I got
Like,
that feeling from when I spoke to you. You'd
Yeah.
already made the choice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, watching the video was just
Yeah.
was just a tick in the box.
yeah,
Like a confirmation.
Yeah.
And I think even when I spoke to you the next day, you know, because it takes, like, it's normally around about this time period in a person's life. You know, I say all the time, you know, we go through phases of lots of 7 years. 0 to 7, you build your neural pathway. 7 to 14, you start to work out, you know, that your independence. 14 to 21 is when you sever the ties with your parents. 21 to 28 is where you blow yourself up, right? You guys haven't done that, of course. Definitely, Harry, you haven't blown yourself up.
No.
Not at all. And then 28 to 35 is really where you ask yourself the 4 primal questions. Where have I come from? Where am I going? Why am I here? And what happens to me afterwards? So it's like I was 26 when I started going, you know, what the fuck is actually going on here? It's like, it was kind of, I saw life as like this TV screen, right? And I was engulfed with what's happening on the TV screen. But I had this hidden awareness that whatever's gone, like, those people aren't actually behind that glass. Do you know what I mean? There's something else going on that is just giving me this image of how life is. And if I want to change that image of how life is and how I'm behaving and interacting within my life, I need to figure out what the fuck is going on behind the screen. What's the mechanism that's causing me to be this way? And I think that life pressurizes us in some way to do that. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of felt when I was speaking to you, Harry, that's what I saw was going on. There's something, he's starting to realize, now there's fucking something going on here. I'm not really too happy with what's happening.
Yeah, and it had probably been, you know, a couple of years in the coming, you know.
Yeah.
It'd been brewing for a few years, and then it all just came to that point.
And a lot of people, I think, come to the point because their life, like either the cycles or the patterns, or you start to wake up to the fact that, is this exactly how I want my life to roll out, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? You're like, well, there's got to be something more to this, yeah? So obviously, one of the big things about relationships and you is we don't actually tell anybody what happens in relationships and you, right? So obviously in this discussion, we're not going to comment on that. And there's a very good reason for it, which you discover at the end of the seminar. without telling anybody or without mentioning what actually happened in the event, and, you know, before we talk about your moment, what you got, well, actually, let's do that. What was the anticipation, or what were you expecting, and what did you get? Like, when you got your moment, what happened? What did you notice for yourself?
For me, it was just this huge weight lifted and this huge sense of relief. Like, for the first time, I took a really big breath and I actually let go of what I've been bottling up for years and years. And I've acknowledged of that myself. Like, I know I bottle things up and I just push them away and don't deal with them, and then they come up again and they come up again. And just whether I don't deal with it myself or with that person I have an issue with.
Yeah.
So really for me, it was just that big sense of relief, a really big breath. And ever since then, it's just felt really quiet.
In your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you knew who it was that you were going to work on when you went into relationships, and you had a very clear indication of what that was?
I did have that clear, yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't surprising that you ended up working on that person.
No,
actually.
it didn't shift or didn't change.
Yeah, who it was that you needed to sort out.
Yeah.
And then can you describe that moment? Like, talk about that moment.
It's hard to put in words.
I know. We've spent, Mitch has spent 20 years. We've spent 20 years.
Trying to put it in words.
Like, saying, you've got to come and do this because something magical happens. But we actually can't explain what happens. Do you know what I mean?
No, just because hearing everyone else, it is really different. But at the end of the day, just for me, it was just like, I don't know, like just kind of like osmosis.
Yeah.
Just like flowed from one stage to another, and just breaking down those pieces that are so clear in my mind and just kind of in front of me visually as well.
Yeah. And
just solidifying that at the same time, like, I was okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, I felt really safe.
Yeah.
In that moment, because the person I was with at the time, it just felt safe. I felt like I could just really let go.
Yeah.
And just be in that moment, and I knew that that was my moment, and I needed to do it right there and then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you know, I'm going to say something about that. Every morning we have a team huddle. So we can communicate every morning, and we talk about our goals for the week. We do a gratitude day. We check in with our goals, and then we also do values. We talk about our values. So we've got 4 main values that we have at MJB. One is love, one is real, one is safe, and one is freedom. And when we had our meeting yesterday morning, which was our first meeting together since Relationships and You, that we were talking about values, we had 2 people that were in the event, and they basically were just saying, I felt love, I felt it was real, I felt safe, and I got a sense of freedom. And just even hearing you say that, it makes me feel humble about the fact that the things that we had planned on for our team, for our clients, for everybody that came into our space, that's how people feel. Do you know what I mean? Because it's it's a massive thing to say, this is my stuff. I've been holding on to it for so long.
In front of strangers as well.
I know it's there. There's all these people in the room with me, but actually all I felt was love, and all I felt was safe. And because I got real, I got to feel free. And I just... I've got goosebumps just thinking about it and talking about it, because for me that's what it's all about. I mean, you know, when we hear that, it's quite humbling, isn't it? Just to have that.
I also think that when a person goes when I went through that stuff, and the reason, you know, freedom is so important is when I went through and I had my own personal realization, I realized that everything I was trying to hide from and everything I thought was in my way was actually the way in my life. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was at that point where I was like, fuck, there's nothing to fix. You know, and I remember my mentor, my master saying to me, okay, Mitch, if I could give you a magic wand right now, we could go back there and change anything that happened back there. What would you change? I was like, fucking nothing, because I wouldn't be who I am. And there's a fundamental difference between getting that in your brain and actually realizing, holy shit, this is who I am. You know, this is absolutely who I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Harry, can you share from your perspective, you know, what did you expect? Did you expect what happened, and how was your moment for you?
So for me, I didn't really have any expectations because I
That's
didn't
good.
know
It's a good way to
anything.
come
I came in completely green, hadn't done much amount of money. Like I had no idea
Yeah.
what was going to happen.
Was there a time through the whole experience that you thought I'm going to kill my fucking brother?
Honestly, no. Like not really. I never really felt like. Yeah, no. I was welcoming to all
Right.
of it, which I think is what helped.
Yeah.
Like I came in fully wanting to be here, wanting to accept any change that like happened. Like I was all open to it.
You were definitely in, yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't expect anything. I didn't have any expectations. And then, yeah, for me, like looking back on it now, I feel like the whole process and the whole 2.5 days was just like building up to that point.
Yeah.
And like it almost feels like now when I look back, it was all just getting bigger and bigger and building up more and more and more. I didn't even realize at the time that's what was happening, and then it all just like for me that moment was pretty big.
Yeah.
And it was a lot, and it was very emotional. But yeah, I felt like it just all sort of built up, and then it was just like yeah.
So,
So
let me just say something. So, do you think that it's kind of like you had this knowing that something was going to break in your life, right? And if you didn't sort something out, something was going to break. And when that broke, you were going to learn from it. But it was going to be a hard way to learn the lesson. So what I think you're trying to say is that you took control of that and went, no, I want to learn the lesson without having to break, or without something having to give way, because I can't keep operating like this. This is just not... congruent with the person I want to be, and it's not sustainable how I'm behaving. So I want to be able to get to that shift without having to blow my life up in order to get there. Because we always learn things from our mistakes, right? We always learn things from things we perceive we fucked up. But when we stop and get it, we realize in that moment, wow, and that's what relationships in you. It sets you up so that you can get the lesson without having to blow everything up.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, like you said, for me, I'd spent so long in my life, for at least the last 5, 6, 7 years, feeling this overwhelming sense of like resentment to my dad, and just the way I was feeling, and I felt like for so long that I had to forgive him. And then through, over the course of the days, and at that point, I realized that right then and there that I didn't need to forgive him, and I didn't need to resent him. And like you just said before, if I could go back and change anything, I wouldn't, because that would change who I am and what I've, where I've come from and everything, and I wouldn't change any of that.
I think clarifying that forgiveness, the reason you don't want to forgive is because forgiveness plays into the illusion that something was wrong.
Yeah, correct.
So when you're forgiving, it's like saying I was right, you were wrong. Whereas when you get that ultimate clarity, there's nothing to forgive, right? So what did you feel in that moment, Harry? What was going on? What was the fear? What's overwhelming?
There's a lot of emotion.
Yes.
There's a lot of emotion. I suppose like just love, really. Just love, I suppose love for my dad that I've buried for a long time.
Yeah.
Based on how I've felt.
Yeah. There's so much love that happened in that space, isn't there,
Yeah.
And it's love that we were adamant we would never find if we looked there.
Yep.
But when you look there, you find more than you could ever have hoped for or imagined, yeah?
Had you ever experienced love like that before, Harry?
I don't think so. Like from just thinking about it, I don't think so. I think that's what it was. The overwhelming emotion was love, and that was the most emotional I've been. I can say ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
But
it blows
it's-
your head off, right?
Yeah,
when you
it
stop
does.
and you realise, and all the synchronistic series of events fall into
And
place.
the dominoes.
You're like,
and it's not a
fuck.
sad, it's like a grateful
No, it's
emotion,
not a sad
right?
emotion. Yeah, it's definitely not sad. It's a positive.
Yeah. Have you ever felt that level of love before?
I want to say yes, because I feel that I do love that way. But for me, it was actually more internal love,
Yeah.
Right.
love for myself. I
Got
don't
it.
think I've ever felt that great loveness and tenderness for myself.
Yep.
So I don't feel like I struggle externally that way.
Yep.
It's actually within me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to look at it as well, because at the end of the day, even though you're working on another person or a situation that happened, the love you ultimately feel is that how I see it and how I felt it was that I was worthy of that love.
Yes.
That love that I thought wasn't there was actually there, and I'd been blocking because I didn't think I was worthy of that. Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
And everything that you need is actually around you. You
Yes.
know. And I can see the both of you as we're talking. You've got the it brings back that emotion that you felt at the time. You recognise that there was there's something that happens when you go back to that moment.
You'll just never
It's
forget.
like, you just can't forget it. You
And
can't undo it.
No,
can
you can't undo it. And I really feel like it's a little bit addictive as well. It's like now I've had a taste of that kind
Yes.
of goodness and that love.
Yes.
It's like I want to make sure I'm constantly feeling that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That's a good.
I think I just found that when I had the first experience of it, I felt as if I had this experience where I felt as if I'd wasted a lot of fucking time. I was like, I don't want to waste any more fucking time. You know, now I feel now that I got that, you know, life had led me to that moment. I felt very humble that fuck, you know, okay, it's got my back. And then obviously I want to be able to pick up the reins and point it in the direction that I want. And
Sure.
you know, there's a part of us in that knowing that knows, you know, no matter what I do, I'm loved. No matter what I do, I'm loved. But we have a conscience. It doesn't mean if I go out and murder someone tomorrow, I'm fucking loved because we have a conscience. But it does mean that, you know, I know that as long as I'm giving my best efforts to being able to make this place a better place, I'm loved. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was really, and that's really why we said about creating Letting It Go, was because we want people to come true and go, right, fuck.
I want to experience that again.
I want to,
and again.
yeah, I want to be
and
able to do it
Yeah.
for myself. I don't want to have to come to these guys to be able to do it. I want to be able to do it for myself. But on top of that, I want to understand my vision and my mission for my life. I want to understand where my values are met. And I have some, because I mean, when I got my dad, right, I realised, oh fuck, I probably need to do this on my mum. You know, I was like, I probably need to.
Well, I noticed that. Well, over the years, we've noticed that people come to relationships in you because they recognise the cycles, they recognise what's going on. Like there's something subconscious that's holding me back, right? And sometimes they feel like there's something wrong, you know, and that's why they come initially. But the reason they come back after they've realised and they've got it and they realise there's nothing wrong is just to learn more and to have more love and to create those deeper levels of love in places we never saw them. Because once you see it in one place, you know it's got to be somewhere else. It's just a matter of going and looking, right?
Yeah.
So I notice, like, we've had a lot of people come through over the years who've had massive, massive stories, you know, massive. You would have heard some in the room about some quite massive stories, but you guys didn't have, like, either of you wouldn't have what you would call, what a standard person might call a traumatic upbringing or any of that sort of
Sure.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of people, I think, forget that just because that hasn't, like, they haven't had those massive experiences that they can't go and work on themselves. What would you say to somebody like that?
Oof. That you're 100% worthy of everything that you're going through. You should just not compare your story or yourself or anything to anyone else because your path, your journey is only yours, and it's not any smaller or bigger than anyone else's around you.
Oh, I love that.
It's-
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Harry, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I think everyone's obviously got that different story. Everyone's level of, you know, whatever that story is different. But I think it's all a hindrance. Like, it's all a hindrance on yourself, no matter how big or small it is a hindrance to yourself, your relationships and your future. And I think that's what a lot of it was for me, is that feeling I had, that was just a hindrance. That was just holding me back.
Yeah.
So there's no benefit for that. And yeah, so to anyone who thinks their story is not big enough, it's a hindrance regardless of how big it is.
Because of the way you're perceiving it.
Correct.
Yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah, yeah. So what do you think is the biggest thing you've noticed since? I mean, I know we're only a few days out, but what do you think is the biggest thing you've noticed different in your life since you've come out of that event?
I suppose
Whether that's an outside thing, whether that's an inside feeling, it doesn't matter. What do you think is the biggest thing you've noticed?
maybe like just the addiction or drive to like want to know more, I suppose. Like maybe that, if that, yeah, I just want more now, you know, like you said before, it's, you do this thing and now it's like, now what? I'm just like so curious, I suppose.
Yeah.
So curious.
Cool.
I haven't actually spoken to my dad since that happened because I need to think long and hard about that conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that for
Well,
me,
it doesn't mean you have to or you don't have to. It's just there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I realised what I realised in that moment with my dad, I realised there's nothing to say, because there's nothing I could say that could ever acknowledge what I realised. You know, how grateful I actually am, because even thank you is just, how does that even express just how much love and appreciation you have in that moment for what they've given you, you know?
Yeah. What do you think you've noticed different, Amanda? What's been different in your life? Or
I just feel really quiet.
Yeah.
My experience for me wasn't noisy or loud. Maybe in that moment of unbottling things, but since then, just a real sense of ease. And I did, like, me and my mum the next day had a connection, and we spoke about a couple of things, and it came very naturally. I didn't plan this conversation.
Right.
I didn't approach her. It just happened over the table. We were having, I don't know, tea, coffee or something, and it just came out like word vomit, and it was really beautiful. But like my mum and I, we butt heads in a way, but at the same time we are very sweet and tender to each other. So in that moment it was just kind of, it felt different, but at the same time it was just really nice. Yeah, to reconnect, I think.
You know, I think that my sister said to me after I came through and did my event, she said, "You're so different." And I said to her, you might see I'm different, but how I feel inside of my head, and the fact that I don't have this voice in my head and this tape recorder going over and over and over is something that you will never see, but I just feel like, do you know what I mean? And that sounds like that's how it was for you. Like, it's like quiet, like that noise isn't there. It's just kind of freaky,
and I'm just,
as well.
It's nice actually, because
yeah.
before that's what was really bothering me.
Yeah.
The anxiety and the insecurities and everything else that goes behind those negatives.
Yeah.
But I just feel really like in the present, which I don't do a lot ever, maybe. Like
it's crazy how anxiety, for people have it for years, can just dissipate.
Yeah.
It's just gone. It's crazy how, you know, that sense, that chatter in the head can just dissipate. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know, suddenly you're just, holy shit, I'm here, I'm awake, I'm present, I'm calm. There's an inner genius is awakened inside of me. I'm here for the first time, and now I just want to bite off.
Yeah, and I don't feel very stressed in terms of like, I'm like, I got to, like, I know I have an opportunity in a way, but like, I trust that it's going to happen for me when it's going to happen. Like, I don't necessarily feel like I'm digging around, like searching for it in that aspect. I just feel something over me where like I trust myself and I trust my experience, and I know that's going to happen.
Yeah,
because I mean, sometimes we normally brief people on this through the event. That once you get it, the brain, which is given the futile task of controlling all your feelings and emotions, but can't feel, it starts to witch hunt afterwards and go, fuck, what's going on? They're not up, they're not down, they're somewhere in the middle. They're humble, they're a bit teary, they feel quiet. Oh, there must be something wrong. And in actual fact, there's nothing wrong. All that's happened is that you're suddenly more awake than you were previously. You've got that greater understanding that life has actually got your back, and it's here to help you achieve things. You feel that sense of support. But the brain can fucking witch hunt. Oh my God, there's a problem. No, there's no problem. It's just that you're awake.
Yes.
I think. Did you guys notice that you've been going into life a little bit differently? That you're not reacting as much to things that you might have reacted to before, things like that. Has any of that occurred for you?
Not yet, maybe.
Okay. Yep.
No, not really.
Yep.
And if it did, maybe I haven't noticed.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure, but I don't think so.
Right. No, that's right. I know that a lot of people say that. That's why I'm just kind of checking in,
But Harry, based on your career and what you do, right? Was there a part of you through this whole process, and even now, thought, God, I wouldn't want any of the lads at the office to know I've done something like this, or this is very, this is very left. This is very, left of center of who, the environment I normally work in.
Not at all, really.
Okay,
no,
cool.
Not at all. I like a few people have asked me about it. Actually, today one of the ladies at work said, "Oh, how was your break?" And I was like, "Oh, it wasn't really a break." Like, I went on a seminar, and I got talking to her, and then she was saying, "Oh, like that sounds really interesting. I've got a pretty shit relationship with my mum. She's very cold and all this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, you need to go do RMI." And
send her the link.
And I did. I sent her the link to the video already, and I was like, and I had a brief chat, and she was like, I was like, based on what you just said, I think you really would benefit. And she's young like me,
right?
And yeah, I was like, you should definitely go. And I've probably sent the video to 4 or 5 people since RMY, and I just said, "Oh, watch the video, and if you're interested, just let me know."
Can you tell the story about one of the guys in the office?
Which one?
That I'd said to you had done it. And he
Oh
met you.
yeah, the handshake. Yeah. So I was walking through the office one day, but
Really?
Chappie,
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
So before I did RMY, I was walking through the office. I just had a meeting and I saw Chappie in the hallway, and we know each other. We work at different brands, but we know each other. And I was like, "Oh, how you going?" He's like, "Good." And I think Mitch had already said to me, "Oh, if you see Mark Chapman, tell him Mitch and Mill said hi."
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, chatting to Chappie. I was like, "Oh, Mitch." I spoke to Mitch the other day, and he was like, "Oh, really? Mitch and Mills?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, why'd you talk to him?" And I was like, "Oh, I've got RMY coming up," and he just stopped and he paused and just held his hand out and was like, I think he said welcome. I think he said welcome. I can't remember, but he was like, welcome aboard or something. And I was like, this is a fucking cult. I was like, I'm going to get sworn in. And it was hilarious. And I shook his hand and he was like, he's like, you'll good luck. Let me know how it all goes. And it was hilarious.
Oh, he's so
really
lovely.
He's amazing. Yeah.
I told
so
George and Alana that, and they were like, yeah, that's so culty.
Yes.
Like,
It is.
What was I going to say? So I know we've got to run. We're pressed a bit for time, but I had something else to ask and now I've forgotten. But I will say, if you, if you had to speak to I really love, that's what I was going to say before I ask you the last question. I love, and for me, being we're dinosaurs now. We've been doing this for 20 years. So we started doing this when you were born. Anyway, beside the point. It's nice seeing young people coming through. Do you know what I mean? It's really nice, and to hear the reactions and the how you've gone through. But I was going to ask, if you were to speak to your younger self or another version of yourself that was about to do this and is undecided, what would you say to them?
Just like you said, play all out.
Play all
just give it everything. Don't hold anything back. Just play all out. Like, don't hold anything back, because if you hold something back, that'll hinder the experience.
Beautiful.
Just give it everything. That's what I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Amanda, what would you say to someone considering doing something like this?
Just trust the process.
Yeah.
Trust yourself. If you're ready thinking about it, it's because you know.
There's something there.
There's something there. So trust that. Listen to that little part of you.
Beautiful.
I love
guys,
that.
can I just say, you guys are my heroes. You have so much courage to put yourself in other people's hands and to go through this process, whether it was somebody you know or just because you said that you wanted to do this. So we love you. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing a part of your story.
Thank
we
you so
really,
much.
really,
Really
appreciate
appreciate it,
it.
guys. Thanks for coming
Lots
down.
of love. Thank you. Do you want to know more about our transformational seminar, Relationships and You? This is our signature seminar event we've been running for over 20 years.
Yes, for over 20 years now, we have helped tens of thousands of people hack their consciousness, reveal to them what it is that is actually holding them back. And then we've held their hands and kept them accountable to overcoming whatever these limitations were. We've shown them how to bridge the gap from where they are to where they want to be in a fun and informative, game-orientated experience that absolutely blows people's minds.
So all you have to do to get that information is find us on socials. We're at MJB Seminars on Facebook and Instagram. Send us a message that says Bridge the Gap, and we will send you a video that you can have a listen to, and you'll also get the availability to book in for a free coaching call.